Welcome to the deep dive. You know, if you ask someone to name the quintessential Paul Reiser role, their answer probably depends entirely on, well, when they grew up.
Uh-huh. It really does.
Because today, we're taking a deep, insightful look at a career that's actually surprisingly tricky to pin down. It's a career defined by this extraordinary duality.
Yeah, duality is the right word. When you look at Paul Reiser, you really see two contradictory figures, don't you?
Totally.
You've got Paul Buckman, warm, maybe a little neurotic, but just the lovable guy from Mad About You, quintessential 90s TV.
The ultimate sitcom husband, kinda.
Right. And then simultaneously, you have Carter Burke from Aliens, just this utterly cold corporate snake in this massive sci-fi context.
Complete opposite.
Exactly. And that ability to flip, between genuine warmth and just pure deceit. That's really the core of his whole professional journey, I think.
So our mission today for you listening is to dive into all the source material we have, the articles, interviews, production notes, everything, and really try to understand how one person managed to navigate, well, classic 80s comedy, then absolutely dominate 90s television as a creator and writer.
Which is huge.
Only to then re-emerge, later on as this kind of indispensable MVP in modern streaming hits. Thinking Stranger Things? The Boys.
Yeah, it's quite the arc. We're tracking the full life cycle here. An actor, comedian, writer, born March 30, 1956, so 69 this year?
Yep, 69.
And his body of work gives us not just Mad About You, which is probably the first thing people think of, but also those key roles like Detective Jeffrey Friedman in the Beverly Hills Cop movies.
You forget those.
And yeah, absolutely, the unforgettable villainy of Carter Burke in Aliens.
He's such a great villain.
But the foundation for all of it, really, it still seems to come back to that rhythm and insight of his observational comedy. So let's maybe unpack the path that built that duality. Where did it start?
Okay, so to begin, we have to look at the roots. Where does that very particular comedic style come from? He was born in New York City in 1956.
Right, NYC kid.
And we know his family's background is Romanian Jewish descent, grew up with 3 sisters. You can already sort of feel that New York sensibility, that family dynamic, informing the kind of humor he'd later use, about relationships, marriage.
Absolutely. That environment definitely shapes the voice.
Yeah.
But the educational background, that's what really sets the stage for his creative range, I think.
Okay.
He went to the Eastside Hebrew Institute, then graduated from Stuyvesant High School, which is, a pretty demanding academic environment in New York.
Right.
But then when he goes off to Binghamton University, he wasn't actually focusing on drama. I mean, he was involved in student theater, sure, Hinman Little Theater stuff in his dorm community.
But that wasn't the major.
No. And here's the, critical detail you mentioned.
Yeah.
He majored in music.
Yeah. Piano and composition.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Piano and composition. That's a deep dive into creative structure, into timing. Yeah. And it's something people often miss when they just think comedian.
For sure. The ability to compose, to time a joke. It feels related to timing a musical phrase, doesn't it?
It really does. And that music background, it's like this thread that runs right through his biggest success later on. We definitely need to keep that in mind.
Okay.
But his actual performance career, that didn't launch from, college stages. He really found his calling as a comedian, performing in New York clubs during his university summer breaks.
Ah, the classic stand-up crucible.
Totally. That intense, immediate feedback you get from a live audience night after night, that's where he really honed that sharp observational edge.
And you can see how that polished stage presence then led directly to his first really big cinematic break. We're talking 1982, the film Diner.
Yeah.
Barry Levinson directing.
Diner was huge, yeah. It was a launch pad for so many actors. And Reiser played a key part. Model.
Yeah.
The character described in the sources as a closet stand-up comedian.
Perfect casting then.
It really was. It was the perfect way to bring his, unique stand-up rhythm right onto the big screen. It showed he could deliver humor that felt really grounded, kind of spontaneous.
But here's the connection I love, the really meta one, which tells you so much about Reiser's self-referential humor style. It's the name of his own production company, Nuance Productions.
There's nuance. Why nuance? Especially for a comedian whose bread and butter became this broad, relatable relationship stuff.
Yeah, it seems counterintuitive.
Because it's an inside joke.
Yeah.
It comes directly from his own film history. In Diner, his character, Model, has this line where he's expressing how deeply uncomfortable he is with the word nuance.
He hates the word.
Hates it. Tries to avoid complexity.
Yeah.
And yet, Reiser brands his whole professional creative life with that exact word his character couldn't stand.
It's brilliant. It's like the subtle wink to us, right? Like, yeah, I'm the guy talking about olives and marriage, but don't underestimate me. There are layers here.
Exactly. It signals right away that maybe his comedy is a bit more sophisticated than it looks on the surface.
That really feels like the main takeaway from his early stuff then. The foundation isn't just telling jokes. It's a very specific, self-aware way of delivering them that always kind of plays with that line between being the everyday guy and the really sharp observer.
Well put. That self-awareness is key.
Okay, so after Diner, his film career doesn't just settle into one thing. It immediately splits, like we said, into these two radically different paths. The nice comedy guy and this sci-fi bad guy.
Yeah, it's quite the split. The comedy path, that was definitely the buddy cop genre that was huge in the mid-'80s. Primarily the Beverly Hills Cop franchise.
Right. Detective Jeffrey Friedman.
Detective Jeffrey Friedman. He's in the original, 1984, comes back for Beverly Hills Cop 2 in 87. And Friedman is, the essential sidekick. He's the reliable, maybe slightly flustered guy.
The foil.
The foil, exactly. Providing that necessary comic relief against, the whirlwind that is Eddie Murphy's Axel Foley. And he reprised it again just recently in 2024 for Beverly Hills Cop, Axel F.
So that character stuck with him. And that role is crucial, isn't it, for establishing that persona? The friendly, fast-talking guy you trust. The guy you want on your side.
Absolutely. Which is precisely why his other big move around that same time into science fiction was so incredibly effective.
We are talking 1986, James Cameron's Aliens.
Aliens. And Reiser plays Carter Burke, the company man, the representative for Weyland-Yutani.
And what makes Burke such a chilling, masterful villain is exactly what you just said. He's played by Paul Reiser.
Yes. He doesn't look like, a typical sci-fi monster or some military head. He looks like the guy who does your taxes.
Or manages your department, yeah.
Right. He delivers his, corporate evil with that same polished, approachable vibe he uses as Detective Friedman.
It's so effective.
It really is. Burke's villainy it's bureaucratic, it's banal almost. He's not driven by some grand evil plan. He's driven by profit.
Just the bottom line.
The bottom line. Getting those xenomorph specimens back for bioweapons research. And he's perfectly willing to sacrifice everybody, the whole Marine expedition, the colonists left at Hadley's Hope, just to make sure he gets his payday.
And the shock when he reveals his true colors, it lands so hard because, as an audience, you trust Paul Reiser based on that comedic persona he'd built. Cameron weaponized his trustworthiness.
Completely weaponized it, which makes it even more fascinating that now, nearly 40 years later, he's not letting that character go.
No. The sources confirm he's revisiting Carter Burke in 2024, but in a totally different format, a new Marvel comic called Aliens What If.
And here's where you see his commitment to creative ownership again. He's not just, lending his likeness or whatever. He's co-writing the comic.
Oh, writing it. Wow.
Yeah. And the series explores this idea. What if Burke actually survived Hadley's Hope? Which, opens up totally new story possibilities for the ultimate company man.
And the partnership behind the writing is, it's actually quite touching, isn't it? He's co-writing it with his own son, Leon Reiser.
With his son, Leon, yeah. Art by Guy Villanova. It just beautifully ties together his most iconic genre role, his clear passion for writing, and his personal family life into this one kind of legacy project.
It feels like a way of reclaiming Burke, maybe reshaping his narrative.
I think so. It shows that Reiser sees his legacy as something active, something he can still mold and, importantly, share. He's literally passing down the creative reins for his most famous bad guy to the next generation, making sure the Reiser voice stays attached to it.
That's incredible. Now, beyond those big 80s franchises, he did keep taking film roles, right? Mid-career stuff like The Marrying Man in 91, Bye-Bye Love in 95.
Yeah, he kept working in film, but for a good decade there, let's be honest, his film work was pretty much overshadowed by his TV dominance. We'll get to that.
Right.
The next really big film moment, the one that truly showcased his dramatic range again, came quite a bit later.
You're talking Whiplash, 2014.
Whiplash, yeah. That was a crucial dramatic pivot. He wasn't the funny guy at all. He played Jim Neiman, the quiet, grounded, supportive father to Miles Teller's character, the aspiring drummer.
Such a contrast to J.K. Simmons.
Exactly. His performance was all nuanced, very restrained. It provided this anchor against the just volcanic drama coming from Simmons. It was definitive proof that the comedy persona was just one tool in his kit. He was a seriously versatile actor.
And he seemed to leverage that resurgence, didn't he? Took on other notable dramatic film roles after that. Dr. Elliot Pellman in Concussion in 2015,
Right.
Howard in Fatherhood in 2021, and showing that writing bug never left, he co-wrote and starred in a 2023 film called The Problem with People, playing a character named Barry.
He never stopped being that creative force, that writer, even alongside the acting. Whether it was a smaller indie project or, the massive network hits he had earlier, he kept both sides going.
Okay, so while his film roles often gave us those surprising dramatic turns or that iconic villain, for most people, especially in the 90s, Paul Reiser was television. He owned the small screen.
He really did. And his massive network success, it had this perfect little 3-year runway leading up to it.
You mean My Two Dads?
Yeah, exactly. My Two Dads ran from 87 to 90. Reiser starred as Michael Taylor.
Yeah.
And the concept was just pure, high-concept 80s sitcom, wasn't it?
Absolutely. Two guys, one kid who's the dad.
Right. He's one of two men who might be the biological father of this teenage girl, and now they both have to raise her together. He did 60 episodes of that. By the end, he'd absolutely mastered the rhythm, the demands of weekly network TV production.
And that experience, that mastery, leads directly into the phenomenon Mad About You.
The phenomenon is right. Debuted in 1992, ran for 7 seasons on NBC. This show just became his creative high point. He played Paul Buckman, starring opposite the amazing Helen Hunt as Jamie Buckman.
And the show is just about them, their marriage.
Pretty much. Documenting the everyday, intimate, often funny, sometimes frustrating details of modern married life in New York City.
Now, what's really key to understanding why Mad About You worked so well and lasted so long is the level of creative control Reiser had, right?
Oh, absolutely crucial. He wasn't just the star showing up to say lines. He was the series co-creator. He was a principal writer. He was an executive producer.
So his voice was everywhere.
Completely. It allowed that unique observational comedic voice, the same one he'd honed back in those NYC stand-up clubs to define the show's entire narrative, its tone, everything.
And the show was a monster hit, critically and commercially.
Huge. And financially. Well, by the final season, the negotiation benchmark was just staggering. Famously, both Reiser and Helen Hunt received $1 million per episode.
$1 million an episode in the late 90s.
Yep. Which, adjust that for inflation, you're looking at nearly $1.9 million today.
Yep.
Per episode. That kind of money wasn't just about being rich, it was about power. It cemented him as an absolute top-tier creative force in network TV, gave him incredible leverage.
And the awards followed that kind of success and influence, didn't they?
They did. Nominations galore. Primetime Emmy nods for Outstanding Lead Actor in a Comedy Series. 6 years running. 94 through 99.
Wow.
Multiple Golden Globe nominations for Best Actor, Screen Actors Guild Awards. The industry recognized what they had.
And here's where we circle back to that surprising detail from his college years, the music degree.
Yes. See, it wasn't just some random thing he did. He was the co-composer of the show's theme song, The Final Frontier.
The theme song everyone knows.
That's the one. Worked with the producer Don Wasses on it. And because he's Paul Reiser and apparently does everything, he himself performed the piano part for the recording of that theme.
That's such a telling detail, isn't it? The theme song isn't just some generic background music. It's literally an extension of his creative personality.
Exactly. It brings this grounded, gentle, intimate feel to the whole show's soundscape. It perfectly mirrors the tone he was going for in the writing. The music and the comedy, for him, they were completely linked by his unique skill set.
And the show's legacy proved pretty strong too, right? There was a revival.
There was. The cultural footprint was definitely there. They struck a revival deal back in 2018, ended up being a 12-episode limited series, picked up by Spectrum Originals in 2019.
Okay.
And then later it moved over to Amazon Prime Video in the fall of 2020. So, yeah, it proved that his specific brand of relationship comedy, it still had an audience, still resonated decades later.
But, success like that, it's got to be hard to follow up. Every creator faces that challenge, right? Trying to recreate the magic.
Absolutely.
And Reiser tried the semi-autobiographical thing again, didn't he, in 2011 with the Paul Reiser Show on NBC?
He did. And this one, well, it's kind of a textbook case study in how comedic tastes can shift, maybe.
How so?
Well, he had the same setup, creatively. He scripted it, starred in it, served as creator, writer, executive producer, replicating that Mad About You control structure. And the show was basically about, a successful sitcom star named Paul Reiser navigating life after the peak fame.
Sounds meta.
Very meta.
Yeah.
But it just didn't land at all. It was a mid-season replacement, and NBC pulled it after only 2 episodes aired.
Ouch. 2 episodes.
Yeah. Now, The sources mention external factors. Maybe NBC didn't give it enough lead time or promotion. Maybe the scheduling was bad.
Sure, network stuff.
But you also have to look at the timing. 2011. Audiences had already had years of Seinfeld's observational meta-comedy, and then Curb Your Enthusiasm took that semi-autobiographical into much edgier, more cringeworthy territory.
Right. Larry David kind of cornered that market.
He really did. So Reiser's gentler observational style focused on the relatively benign problems of post-sitcom fame. It maybe felt a little out of step, maybe even a bit self-indulgent for that specific moment in comedy.
Interesting. Like the formula that made him huge suddenly felt dated.
Possibly. It's an instance where the template that defined success became, maybe, a slight liability. His own quote about the cancellation is pretty darkly funny, though. He said something like, "This is nice because you get to sit around and root for other shows to fail."
Ah. Shows the brutal reality of network TV, especially after the golden age of sitcoms.
Definitely. But the real story here, maybe, is the incredible comeback, the renaissance that followed that flop. If the 90s were his sitcom king era, the 2010s marked this major pivot into modern streaming and prestige drama, showcasing a whole new kind of quiet versatility.
Yeah, he really reinvented himself again. Where did that start? You mentioned Red Oaks.
That was part of it, yeah. Around 2014, he took a main role as Doug Getty in Red Oaks on Amazon. But his really big return to the, national conversation came via Netflix. And interestingly, he used that built-in sense of trustworthiness. Again, the same thing that made Carter Burke so scary.
You mean Dr. Sam Owens in Stranger Things?
Exactly. He joined Stranger Things starting in 2017, played Dr. Owens across, 14 episodes so far? And the character is introduced as potentially villainous, right, given the lab coat and the government connection.
Yeah, you're definitely suspicious at first.
But ultimately, he acts more like a protective figure, showing all this complex moral shading. It was brilliant casting because it played against the audience's expectation, both from his nice guy image and his Burke villainy. It earned him a SAG nomination with the rest of the ensemble cast.
And he found success in that prestige comedy drama world too, didn't he? On the Kaminsky Method.
Oh, hugely. Playing Martin Schneider, Mindy Kaminsky's boyfriend, in the last 2 seasons of the Kaminsky Method, that role felt like a perfect fit for his subtle, grounded style. And he got him recognized again. Earned him a Primetime Emmy nomination for Outstanding Supporting Actor in a Comedy Series.
So serious, dramatic chops getting acknowledged again.
Definitely. And just to prove he hadn't lost his taste for the wilder stuff, he shows up as the mysterious fixer, known only as the Legend, in Amazon's super dark, super violent satire, The Boys.
The Legend. That was great.
Wasn't it? Just 2 episodes initially in 2022, but he's set to reprise it in Season 5. Which again shows him leaning right back into that absurdity and darkness of genre work. It completes the circle, almost, back to Aliens and his ability to play characters living just outside the lines.
And he rounded that period out with Reboot as well.
Yeah, joined the main cast of that meta-comedy Reboot as Gordon Gellman in 2022. So you look at that whole run from, say, 2014 onwards, it's an incredible multi-platform, multi-genre streak. Very few actors from that 90s sitcom peak have managed anything like it.
Okay, so we've established Paul Reiser as, actor, a comedian, a co-creator, a producer, even a composer. But if you really want to get to the heart of that observational comedic voice, we absolutely have to spend some time on his literary career, specifically what you could call the Hood trilogy of books.
Oh, absolutely. Those 3 books, Couplehood, Babyhood, and Familyhood, they are just essential if you want to understand the DNA of Mad About You.
They're not just typical celebrity memoirs, are they?
Not at all. They're collections of humorous essays, really sharply observed stuff built around major relationship milestones.
And the first one, Couplehood, that one really seemed to hit a nerve culturally, didn't it? Focused on, the early days of being a couple. And it's famous for coining the olive theory.
The olive theory. It's pure Reiser comedy, isn't it? Take some tiny, insignificant little detail and just blow it up into this grand theory of relationships.
So what was the theory again?
The basic idea is that a couple is perfectly matched if one partner hates olives and the other partner loves them, because then there's no conflict over the olives. One person happily eats them all.
Huh. Simple but brilliant.
Is his way of framing compatibility and conflict resolution, not through, big romantic gestures, but through these small, everyday alignments, how you fit together in the little moments.
But what's maybe even funnier about Couplehood is how he played with the actual book itself, the publishing process. It starts on page 145, right?
Yeah, that's such a legendary publishing story. Reiser himself explained it was totally deliberate. He did it to give the reader this false sense of accomplishment right from the start.
Like you'd already made progress.
Exactly. Make you feel like you were already so deep into the book, you just had to finish it. It's hilarious, but it also shows this really savvy understanding of audience psychology, even in print form.
Okay, so after couplehood comes babyhood, applying that same lens to being a first-time father.
Precisely. Taking that observational style and turning it inward onto the chaos, the anxieties, the sheer weirdness and joy of new parenthood.
And there's another funny anecdote connected to promoting that book, isn't there? Something about Letterman.
Oh yeah, the prop book. When he went on The Late Show with David Letterman back in '96 to promote it, apparently he hadn't actually settled on the final title yet.
So what did he do?
So he brought this prop book onto the set. It was titled simply Book. And it had the exact same minimalist cover design as Couplehood.
Just book. That's fantastic.
Isn't it? Just finding humor in the slightly absurd process of celebrity book promotion itself, that's peak Reiser.
And then the trilogy rounded out with Familyhood in May 2011, continuing those humorous essays as his family grew up.
Yep, Familyhood kept that going. And look, his TV success often overshadows this, but these books were huge bestsellers. They sold millions of copies. It proved his narrative voice was incredibly powerful on its own, regardless of the medium.
Okay, so author's another major pillar here. Now let's circle back again to that musical foundation we keep mentioning. The music major at Binghamton, co-writing The Final Frontier.
Right, because it wasn't just like a thing he did in college and forgot about. He actually maintained a pretty serious professional musical life alongside everything else.
Really? Like what?
Well, for instance, in 2010, he collaborated with the singer Julia Fordham. They put out a whole CD album together called Unusual Suspects.
An album? Wow. Did they perform it?
They did. They subsequently toured acoustically together, which shows a real commitment to live musical performance, not just studio work.
And there was a specific song on that album that stood out.
Yeah, there's one track called Unsung Hero. And Reiser personally dedicated that song to American soldiers who were serving in Afghanistan at the time.
Huh. That's interesting. It shows him stepping outside the pure comedy zone, using his music for something more like public advocacy or commentary.
Exactly. Adds another layer to his public persona, doesn't it? And he also partnered with another big name, Melissa Manchester.
A singer.
Yeah. He co-wrote a song called No They're There for her 2015 album, You Gotta Love the Life. And this collaboration actually brings us right back to his stand-up roots in a really cool, poignant way.
How so?
Well, there's this great story. It's documented in the book I Killed, True Stories of the Road from America's Todd Comics. Turns out, way back, early in his career, before he was famous, Reiser was actually Melissa Manchester's opening act.
No way. Opening for a singer as a comedian? That's tough.
Exactly. And apparently, she gave him this serious warning. Said music audiences were notoriously brutal towards comedians, told him the last comic who opened for her had actually left the venue in tears.
Oh, man. Talk about pressure.
Right. And Reiser reflects on that warning in the chapter he wrote for that book. The chapter title is Perfect. Don't worry if they suck.
Huh. Love it.
And he details the night that followed, where he apparently just bombed spectacularly at the Concord Hotel. It's such a great anecdote because it shows the vulnerability, the intense risk, and yeah, the humility you need for stand-up, that foundational discipline that really seems to fuel all the more polished successes that came later. You know, amidst all that chaos, the intense demands of network TV stardom, making movies, writing books, composing music, touring Reiser's personal life seems to have remained remarkably stable, which maybe acted as a necessary anchor through all those professional ups and downs.
Yeah, that seems crucial sometimes. He married Paula Ravets. When was it? August 21st, 1988.
Right, 1988. That's a full 4 years before but you even debuted.
Ah, so the relationship predates the massive fame.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they have 2 sons, born in 1995 and 2000. You often find that stability established before hitting that peak level of fame is what allows someone to navigate it without, major public drama or implosion.
Makes sense. Now, there's also a significant aspect of his personal life that he's been quite public about related to advocacy, isn't there?
Yes. His older son has cerebral palsy, and that's something Reiser has spoken about openly over the years, particularly at fundraisers and other events.
Using his platform?
Using his platform, yeah, to raise awareness, to raise financial support for the community. He chose to be open about the realities, the challenges, and joys of parenting a child with special needs.
That's commendable. And if we look back even further, at his own parents, they seem pretty interesting too. His mother, Helen Hollinger Reiser, she was a homemaker, but also one of the first women to graduate from Baruch College.
That's right, which points to a certain trailblazing spirit, maybe. And his father, Samuel H. Reiser, he was a wholesale health food distributor and also served in the military.
So, sounds like a background with a strong sense of maybe professional drive and stability on both sides. You can see how that might influence his own work ethic.
Definitely seems plausible.
Hmm.
And then, when you look at his extended family, his relatives, you find a couple other names with pretty major public profiles, which suggests maybe a deeper family tradition of intellectual or creative pursuits.
Oh, yeah. Like who?
Well, his cousin is Will Reiser. He's a successful screenwriter and producer. He wrote the film 50-50 back in 2011.
Oh, right. The comedy drama with Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Seth Rogen.
That's the one. And interestingly, that film was semi-autobiographical, dealing with serious illness, but using sharp humor. Shares that Reiser family trait, maybe, of blending personal drama and comedy.
Huh. That's a neat connection. And there was another notable relative mention.
Yeah, perhaps the most surprising one mentioned in the sources. His first cousin is Richard Epstein.
The legal scholar, Richard Epstein.
The very same.
Okay.
A renowned libertarian legal scholar.
Wow. That really highlights a diverse family tree, doesn't it? Bridging high-level legal theory on one side, and then creative endeavors like screenwriting and, well, Paul Reiser himself, spanning sitcoms, essays, music, genre villainy.
It really does. It reinforces this idea that his background is kind of steeped in these complex intellectual and professional worlds, even beyond show business.
Okay, so let's try to pull all these threads together, synthesize what we've covered in this Paul Reiser deep dive. We started with that foundational paradox, right? A stand-up comedian ranked, what was it, 77th back in
77th on that Comedy Central list, yeah.
Yeah.
His material relying on that gentle observation, that relatability.
And that skill, that observational acuity, it then lets him transition into being this, like, creative mastermind, co-creator, writer, executive producer of Mad About You, one of the biggest sitcoms of the 90s, wielding huge creative and financial power.
Massive power. But then at the same time, he maintains this film career defined by its shocking duality, from the nice, funny sidekick in Beverly Hills Cop
To the absolutely chilling corporate evil of Carter Burke in Aliens. And that role, crucially, worked specifically because we, the audience, trusted the face of Paul Reiser.
We trusted him, and his versatility just kept expanding. He's a 3-time published best-selling author. He's an accomplished musician who composed his own iconic theme song and toured professionally.
And he showed this incredible ability to pivot again and again. Even from the failure of the Paul Reiser show, he comes back to become this indispensable figure in modern, high-quality streaming shows like The Kaminsky Method and Stranger Things, even The Boys.
He doesn't just adapt to whatever the creative landscape is doing. He seems to actively master multiple creative roles within it. Actor, writer, producer, composer.
What really stands out to me is how he blends those roles. Like you said, the writer informs the actor, the musician informs the composer, and maybe the father informs the writer too.
I think that's a great point.
Yeah.
Which brings us right back to that final fascinating connection we talked about earlier. Here he is, returning to his most iconic villain, Carter Burke, 38 years after Aliens. Yeah. And he chooses to explore that character's potential survival in a totally new medium, comics. And he's doing it co-writing with his own son, Leon.
That act right there, that deliberate choice to share such a key piece of his professional history, his creative legacy, with his own family. It does raise a really interesting question, doesn't it? Maybe for all creators listening.
What's the question?
Well, maybe it's this. Does the most successful or maybe the most satisfying stage of a long creative career involve not just looking back at your greatest hits, but actually sharing that exploration, sharing your most iconic roles, your deepest insights with the next generation, collaborating on the legacy?
Now, that's a fantastic thought to end on. It really seems that for Paul Reiser, the answer isn't just about maintaining a legacy he already built. It's about actively collaborating with the future, ensuring that his unique duality, that blend of warmth and edge, continues to surprise us all.